What is up, guys? I'm in the PT Cruiser right now. I'm about to make a couple runs to the parts stores, get a few things. I'm going to go pick up the truck, and today we're going to finally be installing the turbo on the truck. So I was running around pretty much all day yesterday getting parts, tools, anything I was going to need. And just a disclaimer, this turbo is not going to be functional yet. It's going to be on the truck. It's going to have all the oil lines hooked up. I'll be able to drive the truck. I just won't be able to get into boost because I won't have fuel cut defender. I will not have the wideband gauge, won't have the FMU on it, won't have any of that stuff on it yet. That stuff is still in the mail. It's still not here. All the parts to install the turbo are here, so I'm just going to go ahead and install it, have that bit of it done, and be able to just work on the rest of it throughout the week. I'm going to make a few runs to the parts store, and then we'll go pick up the truck. Okay, I have the truck here at the house, and I didn't really start working on much, but pulled the hood off first of all so that I have lots of room and the hood's not in the way. I don't have to have the hood prop up. Threw this on real quick just because I needed to remove the big air hat thing just to make room anyway, so it's laying down there. And it's not going back on, so I just went ahead while I was waiting for things to cool down from driving it back here. While I'm waiting for this thing to cool down, figured I would go stick that on, got the adapter and the one T-bolt clamp I had for it, and I brought it this way as far as I could, and just played around with some of the intercooler piping, eyeballed some stuff, and it looks like everything will be sitting pretty much right where I need it to be with the intercooler and everything, which is good. The shittiest part of this entire process is getting the oil pan pulled so I can drill the hole in it, put the drain fitting that you guys saw in the unboxing video in it, and then put it all back in. That sucks to do because you have to jack the engine up from somewhere. I'm probably going to do it from this pulley right here. Jack it up and undo the motor mounts, jack it up as high as possible so the oil pan can slide out and remove it. And I got a new oil pan gasket down here, got new oil filter, fresh oil because I'm going to be pulling the oil filter and of course pulling the pan, so all the oil's got to be drained out of it. Got some hoses and things in there. Got some new welding wire because I ran out. You guys have seen all that in the unboxing video. If you haven't, I'll have a link to the unboxing video in the description. Just to keep this video short, I'm not going to go over a whole bunch of that stuff. And then there's the can of paint. Here's the turbo. I went and got it dressed up a little bit. So got the feed fitting. And I got this fitting right here, which came off of the real Garrett T3 I've got that I had rebuilt. This was actually still in the old compressor housing from that thing, so I pulled it off, cleaned some of the rust off of it that was on it, and threaded it in, blocked off this one. This fitting right here is going to go to the wastegate. Got my elbow on it and clamped up right where it needs to be. Got the drain fitting on it. I've mentioned it before, this turbo's in rough shape. There's a couple little tiny spots and a couple of the blades on the compressor that are chipped up. It looks like it might have sucked something in. I'm not really sure because it's not... The blades on the inside blades are not chipped. There's a couple of them on the outside that are. We'll see how long this thing lasts. If I can get a month out of it, I'll be content. If it doesn't last even that long, I don't really care. I just want to use it since I have it. And maybe if I'm lucky, I'll get a month or two out of it. We'll just have to see. But I've got it. I'm going to use it. There's that. That's everything. So first thing I'm going to start by doing is removing all this. I've done this 100 times already, so this won't take me very long. I've got to get this pseudo turbo out of here, and it's not going to go back on, so I'll just set it off to the side, pull the manifold off, and while the exhaust is disconnected, that's when I'm going to go ahead and jack the motor up and pull the oil pan out as well. Not going to film a whole lot of that because it's going to be boring and it's going to suck. I'm going to be really pissed off doing it because I hate doing it. I remember doing it on my old truck because the oil pan gasket started to leak real bad, and it's just a miserable process. So I'm going to get that done and over with. And then we'll start doing the fun stuff, which is, you know, putting the exhaust back together, getting the turbo on. Okay, well, the truck is in the air, and as you can see, this is my sketchy rig to get the oil pan out. And this is as high as you have to lift the engine in order to get the oil pan out without pulling the entire engine. The motor mount on the driver's side, it is in two pieces, or it's dangling a little bit, like the rubber came off and another portion of it is holding it together, and I'm not sure what part of it is actually doing that. But this one is fine. This one's junk, which probably means that when I do the 5-speed swap, we're just going to go ahead and pull the entire engine and trans out, and I'll put fresh motor mounts in it, and it'll be a lot easier to access all the transmission stuff and get everything bolted together and torqued properly. But yeah, that's how to remove the oil pan. There's the oil pan right here. I'm going to go and wipe as much of this crud out of here as I can because there's a lot of it in there. I'm going to wipe off the bottom of the oil pickup or the sump and then pull that gasket out of there. And once this thing's cleaned up on the inside to where I'm happy with it, I'm going to drill a hole, and I marked it. See, this is, here we go. This little gold mark right here is where I need to drill the hole for the fitting. And then I'll be able to go ahead and put it back in. Fitting is on the oil pan. I ended up welding it on, not bolting it on, as you can see here, because with where I drilled the hole and where the best place for it to be was at, put it really close to where this is for the dipstick. I was worried it wouldn't seal right and that I would have a leak, and that wouldn't be fun because then I'd have to go pull this pan again and do exactly what I did here anyway. And doing it this way and keeping the threaded part of it, not cutting that off, actually allowed me to have the drain fitting stick out further, which is also a little bit better. As long as it doesn't leak, it should be all good. I welded it front and back. Now I need to go get the pan put back on. Hopefully pretty soon I'll be done underneath of the truck, because this is the worst part of this entire process. That's where we're at. I'll get back with you guys once I've got this oil pan back in. Oil pan is back on and everything is all good there. Got the oil filter off, sitting in there. Whoops, I just knocked something over. But right now I'm basically screwed because the feed line I bought, which I have sitting right here, is not 1/8 inch NPT like I thought it would be to fit into this. So pretty much every eBay oil feed line is 1/8 inch NPT on the inlet, except for this one that I bought, which also has the flares like a brake line. It's 3/16 flare nut like a brake line would use, and I don't have an adapter for it. The eBay listing didn't state what the thread was or anything, so I just assumed that it would be 1/8 inch, so I could use it in this. But it's not. So right now, my current situation is searching all over Facebook, Craigslist, anywhere to find anybody selling a turbo kit, parting out a turbo kit, just asking on pages if anybody has one of these damn lines, because I can't really do anything else until I have that line. I can't put the manifold on because it's going to be kind of hard to reach down there, put the line in with the manifold on the truck. So, because the sandwich sits well right there, so the line comes out this way, and it's going to be extremely difficult for me. I guess I can shut. There's the drain fitting, by the way. It looks pretty good down there, so it's about perfect. But basically, I'm stuck. I can't go any further until I find a line that fits. So unless I get a line in sometime tonight or tomorrow, you guys probably won't hear anything else from me until a line comes in the mail. So I guess that's going to be it for now. I will get back with you guys once I have a feed line. I got an oil feed line. Went looking around on Facebook yesterday. It's now Saturday. Yesterday was Friday when I was working on this. I was looking around on Facebook and Craigslist. I asked on a few groups if anybody had a line just laying around. It was a kit that was totally unused. It was just missing an intercooler. Messaged him, was like, hey, do you think you'd be able to sell me the line? And he said, yeah. So 35 bucks. Drove 2 hours away. Got the line already in. Got the oil filter sandwich in. Got the oil filter on. And this is all ready to go for the turbo. I got this kind of in the way. And everything's sitting right where I want it to. So now I need to get the exhaust manifold put back on, which is laying over there on the ground. And get all the exhaust bolted back up. Once the exhaust is all bolted back up, I can go ahead and, before I put the exhaust on, I'm going to run a drain line down to that drain fitting, just so that I don't have to try and reach down there, because with the oil filter on and the motor mount in the way, and then once there's an exhaust manifold and the turbo up here, it's going to be really hard to reach, so I'm going to put that on. But we're really close to being able to actually stick the turbo on here and give it its first start and check for leaks and stuff. And then from there we'll be able to hook up all the intercooler piping, which is awesome. But I was so glad. I got so lucky finding somebody, even though it was still, like, it was a 2-hour drive either way, but still, it was a lot. Oh, it would cost about the same as an eBay line would have, because he gave me all of this stuff as well that came with it. So he gave me the drain line stuff, so there's some AN fittings that came with it. And then there's this bag of adapters and fittings and stuff, which is always nice to have around. So there's all of those. There's an elbow and a few other items in there. I may go digging through that and see if any of these fit mine, if that oil fitting leaks on top. I did find out that I did have a brand new unopened feed fitting and gasket in the house. I found it digging through some of my old stuff. because I had to buy a second line, a new replacement line for the green Dakota, because this stripped out on it. And the new feed line that I bought for that truck came with a new plate. But hopefully I won't have any leaks and won't have to worry about it. But if I do, at least I have a way to fix it. But yeah, we have the oil line situation figured out. And now it's time to start putting exhaust back together and put a turbo on it. Alright guys, this is it. We're about to install the eBay turbo. I got the oil drain hose on, and once the turbo's here, it'll push the hose away from the exhaust manifold, so it's not going to be touching. I want to get some steel braided line for that at some point. The hose that I got with that kit I have is slightly smaller than the 5/8, so it's probably a metric size, so I can't use that like I was hoping I would get lucky and be able to. This is what I've been working to get to this point for quite some time now, and the time has finally come to officially install the turbo, not just throwing it on to mock it up or admire it, but actually putting the turbo on this truck to stay. I already got the turbo all dressed up. You guys saw that earlier. Got my brand new flange gasket going in there. There's not as much room to access things in this engine bay anymore, but everything fits pretty well. The drain line is on the pan, as you guys saw. The feed line is, I ended up moving it to a different port so that it would run away from the exhaust, because it did kind of face towards the exhaust where I had it. Get this oil feed hooked up here and try to route it to where it won't hit exhaust. I don't know, that thing, Jesus, that thing loops up high. Is it gonna hit the hood though? I don't think it's gonna hit the hood though, so we'll give her a shot. We'll see what it does. This is the tricky part. When you're putting a turbo on something that never was intended to have a turbo of any sort on it, you're gonna run into issues with, you know, fitting stuff. And I'm lucky that this one has come together as well as it has, because for being, you know, an old V6, you know, this thing was never intended to have this type of nonsense strapped to it. They went and they put tape all over this gasket, so that means that when this thing gets hot, it's gonna smoke. That's awesome. She's a little sticky. I got a metal gasket, not one of those like paper things, so it's a good gasket, not a crappy one. I'm excited for the first start. The first start's going to be really smoky. There's a lot of oil all over the exhaust right now, and there's a lot of coolant on the exhaust as well from that little coolant leak it had when I had the motor jacked up, which went away. I couldn't find out exactly where it was coming from, but it went away as soon as I let the motor back down. So I don't know, I'm just going to put antifreeze back in it and we will fire it up. I also need to put oil in it. It's kind of important. The turbo's bolted in. Look at that. Would you look at that? That looks great. It looks so good. Oil's on, drain needs adjusted, but it's on. All the exhaust is bolted up. I can't wait to hear this thing. It's going to be so awesome to hear it. Once I'm going to start it, after I get the last few little things buttoned up, I'm going to start it, let it run for a little bit with it up in the air, and then once I'm certain there are no leaks, I'm going to back it out, clean up the floor a little bit, and maybe clean up some of these tools, and then I'll bring it back in and we'll start hooking up intercooler piping stuff. And that's all that's left to do is intercooler. I'm still waiting on parts. I also need to hook up this little guy here. I'll end up having to turn this around a little bit, but yeah, we are looking really good right now. This is so cool. There's a turbo on the truck. Had a little situation with the line, but that's taken care of, so I'm just gonna button up a few more things and then I will get back with you guys and we'll give it its first start. Alright, this is it. Oil in it, topped off the coolant, shortened the drain. Oil feed's all hooked up, oil drain is completely done. Everything is hooked up. I obviously need to situate some of this stuff over here, but I can start it. Looking good right now. No oil leaks there. Nothing leaking here. Nothing leaking there. There's the steam coming. Oh yeah. A little bit of moisture coming out of that gasket. I don't see any leaks anywhere. I think I might be able to see one at that bolt block right there, but they're looking pretty good. I'm going to let it run for a little bit and then just keep a good close eye on it for leaks. If I don't see any leaks, I'll go ahead and let it down and get it out of here so I can clean the floor up a little bit. Alright, I am back. I got the floor cleaned up, kind of organized stuff, and I went and I mocked everything up on the intercooler piping and got it all to fit, which was surprisingly easy. So I need to make a bracket, of course, to mount the intercooler, but this is the piping and stuff. I wanted to test fit everything before I tried in mounting it, just to see if I needed it higher or lower or, you know, moved around. It's going to be offset this way, and of course all of these are going to sit neater than they are right now, and it's going to sit up about here and be offset a little bit. And I've got steel tubing sitting right there, the square tube. I'm going to use that to mount the intercooler, so I'm probably going to make like a triangle and mount it just off of this side. Use the two sway bar bolts over here, and then have, you know, one bar going across, the one going down, and then a support one running across to build a triangle. That way I don't have to have, you know, a bar that runs all the way across the entire length of the truck. But yeah, if everything fit really well. This throttle cable I can kind of move around and do whatever with. So now that I know I have the piping I need, I can get the mount made and welded up and painted and everything and bolted in. I'm gonna need to get longer bolts for down there. I might get lucky and have some already here, but yeah, it drove fine. There's no oil leaks, there's no horrible noises. I was going to check for shaft play after driving it around, but everything's still really hot. One thing I did, there's a cut in this radiator hose, this lower one right here. It's where all the coolant is leaking from, so once the thing cools down, I'm going to drain some of the antifreeze out of it and then pull this off, cut it shorter, and stick it back on. And the linkage for the transmission, there's a little plastic thing on it that popped off. So the shifter still works, but it's got some slop in it. I can't get it all the way into one, but I can get up to park and everything just fine. So I'm going to fix that. I'm going to start making that bracket. I'm probably going to have to go and get bolts, but I wanted to mock everything up, and this is what it's going to look like basically. The intercooler is going to be sitting a lot tighter than it is right now because it's just kind of flopping around down there, but that's where the intercooler is basically going to sit. I just have to make sure that, you know, stuff isn't touching pulleys and, you know, whatnot. So right about there. That's about how she's going to sit. A little bit higher, about like that. That's pretty close. Looks good, fits good, and then everything will be completely done. There's nothing else needs to go on. All my other parts for the fuel system and everything are on the way. They're not here yet, so yeah, I'm really happy with this. This looks so good, and everything, like, if the hood's on and you're not looking at it, you would never know all that was in there. The turbo sounds really, really healthy. It sounds really, really good. Just driving it around, sounds like a diesel truck, which is really funny. So yeah, I'm gonna pull those 2 bolts out, or at least I'll probably just pull one and then measure it. I'll run to the hardware store, get 2 longer bolts, and then I will start mocking up the intercooler mount, and then we'll be able to go drive it and do a little bit of turbo surging around a little bit, and then that'll be it, and there will officially be a turbo on the Dakota. Okay, so I forgot to get the camera out while I was making the bracket for the intercooler, but it is finished, and you'll be able to see it a little bit. Actually, you can't really see it at all from here. Let me find my light, and we can look at it from underneath. Maybe we'll be able to see it from up here. I don't know. You can see a little bit of it. Right here is where my dookie welds are. So I removed one of the 3 bolts, and I actually ended up welding the mount directly to the sway bar bracket. And I have 1 bolt was removed because of the way it was shaped and everything. I couldn't just drill 2 holes and bolt it in just because of the way that the brackets are shaped. And it doesn't bolt up on this side or anything. Actually, you can see the end of it down there. But yeah, it's just square tube and then welded up, and I re-angled it so that it sits pretty much perfectly straight. And I just finished putting the hot side of the intercooler couplers and stuff all together, so that's done. Now I just need to do the cold side, and then before I start the truck, I'm going to go down and reconnect my transmission linkage, and then I'll be able to start it, and we'll be able to make the turbo surge a little bit, and then I think that's where I'm going to end the video. We'll do some driving videos once the fuel system is done, because all I'm going to be able to do is make noises, and I'm going to kind of be a douchebag and withhold a little bit on that, make you guys wait. But this looks so good. This looks fantastic. This thing's pretty sturdy too. It's got a little bit of wiggle room, but that's about what you want. That's good. So I need to get cold side on, jack the truck up, reattach the shifter linkage bushing that popped out, and then we'll start it. Made a little bit of noise here in the garage. Okay, shifter linkage is all back in. Here's what everything looks like. This looks amazing. Everything's nice and tight. The couplers are on. Everything fit really, really well. I'm kind of close to the battery there, but they should be okay. Might be a little bit of white noise because the truck is like powered on. That's sturdy. Everything appears to be good. I drove it around once earlier. The only thing I've really done was just put things back together with like the shifter linkage and stuff, and put the intercooler and stuff on. So I already know there's no oil leaks. We're going to start it, and we're going to hear some turbo flutter on a Dodge Dakota for the first time in almost 2 years. This is about to be really, really good. Alright, we're running. I don't know what its deal was, but it decided it wanted to start. I unplugged coil pack, plugged it back in, jiggled some wires over here. So, I don't know. Weird. But hey, we're back in action. And it's been running for a minute, so and we're back. I want to thank you guys very, very much for watching. I want to thank you guys so much for the support I've gotten throughout this entire build, and I can't wait to be back with the next one.